All right, gang. Weekly press conference this week. Don't mind me. I'm just watching Phil's Dodgers right now. Obviously, a must-win game for the Phillies. From a Philadelphia sports fan perspective, can't really ask much more than what you get today. Starting off Phil's Dodgers. Then you've got Eagles, Giants a little later in the evening, and the Flyers play as well. Your basketball game away from 4 for 4, which happens like once every couple of years. So, in terms of football for the week, obviously made a couple trades this week. Team was good, 3-2. Lost to Owen by a point week 1, lost to Ryan by a couple points this last week. Things go a little different one way or the other. Could be 5-0 really. But I think there were some, underlying cracks in the armor. QB wise, obviously got Josh Allen in one spot, but running out in that second spot was CJ Stroud. He's played better as of late, but there's room to upgrade there in that QB2 slot. At running back, obviously, I had a lot of depth. So that was kind of the strong point. And then at wideout, JSN's looking like a top 5 wideout. Debo was looking good too. Obviously a little bit of concern with McLaurin coming back. I think he's still going to get his points just because they kind of operate 2 different skill sets. And then Pickens, kind of in the same boat. CD's going to be coming back, getting a lot of targets. I think Pickens is still going to get a lot of the red zone work, but some concern there. I didn't really have a lot of wideout depth. Devontae Smith, Jordan Addison, wideout 2s on their own teams. You could plug them in and spot start them, but they're not really going to guarantee you much. Obviously, good tight end, special teams, really know what you're going to get. But, I looked, and with all that running back depth, I figured I would, try and move some stuff around. Dr. Lowe's been hounding me, trying to, get some wideouts for his team. He was really thin there. I initially didn't really want to give up 2 wideouts to him just because that left me with a ton of running backs and no wideouts, which is kind of why I was aggressive most of the day yesterday. I ended up giving Pickens and Debo to get Lamar, who, quite frankly, has the potential to end up as, the QB1, QB2 any given week. Obviously, he's on the trade block because he missed some time, and he's got his bye coming up, so probably not going to have him for the next 2 weeks, which is fine. I've got a lot of players on buys the next 2 weeks, so I'm kind of punting these 2 weeks for long-term success. Pairing him with Allen, the consensus QB1 and QB2 at the beginning of the season, it should raise the floor of my QB play moving forward, and potentially could have some really, really good weeks. Running back depth, we talked about that as the subsequent moves to get some wideouts to replace who I lost. Traded Kenneth Walker initially with Ryan to get Marvin Harrison. I think Marvin Harrison played decent the last couple of weeks. The offense isn't great. Obviously their running back play has been suspect after injuries. So I think, in the red zone, they're going to throw the ball more. I'm hopeful that, he continues to develop as a good wide receiver in the league. Kyler's meh, but I think in that offense, Marvin Harrison's going to get his catches. So I lost Kenneth Walker there, and it left me with Charbonnet, which that's tough. Charbonnet has value, but it's kind of tied to Kenneth Walker in a way, and I really want to stay with him. Still had 4 starting caliber running backs. Look at Garvey, who's ran into some bad luck lately. Zay Flowers end up with a stack with Lamar, a wide receiver 2 on the year. Really had some good games, and I think the potential for continued success when Lamar comes back. So that was a good get. And then A.J. Brown, obviously disappointing this year, but he's got the pedigree from years past that any given week he could turn it around. I think he's hit his floor. Like I don't think he can get worse than as is. And so, getting those 2 guys, giving up, a good running back, and then probably a wide receiver 3 in Devontae Smith and a good handoff in Charbonnet. I think it was a fair deal for both parties. Evened out the depth a little bit on the team. I've got 3 good running backs, 4 good wideouts, 2 really good QBs, and a good tight end. Filling out the bench with a bunch of handcuffs. In subsequent weeks, I'm going to end up needing like a backup tight end and stuff. But I think right now I have a fairly well-balanced team. I don't expect Lamar to play this week, so I'll end up having to get some guy off the waivers. But once Lamar's back, I'm hopeful that this team can consistently put up some points. But we'll see. Today we'll just enjoy the Birds beating down on the Giants. Hopefully the Phils win, get to a game 5, and we can have a happy Thursday to kick us off going into the weekend. But we'll see.